Hey everybody, it's Lon.TV, and we've got another printer to take a look at, this one from HP. This is their NV6455. This is an all-in-one that's got the flatbed scanner, the auto document feeder, and of course the color printer. And we're going to be taking a closer look at this device and seeing what it's all about here in just a second. But I do want to let you know, in the interest of full disclosure, that this is on loan from HP. So when we're done with this, it goes back to them. All of the opinions you're about to hear are my own. Nobody is paying for this review, nor is anyone reviewing or approving what you're about to see before it was uploaded. So let's get into it now and see what this printer is all about. Now, the price point on this is pretty reasonable, $149 for the version with the auto document feeder scanner up here. They have another version that doesn't have the auto document feeder, but does have the flatbed portion, and that one sells for a little bit less at $129. So let's take a closer look now at the hardware. This is following HP's new consumer design language here, which gets rid of buttons and screens and pretty much relies on your mobile phone to do all of the interaction with the printer. There are a few buttons on here for making copies and whatnot, but a bulk of what you're going to do, including setup, is going to be done on your mobile phone. And a little bit earlier, I did a live stream where we set the printer up in real time using my phone. It was very easy to do. It got on the network and we were able to get up and running very, very quickly. You do have to download HP's app, which runs on iPhones and Android devices along with tablets, and it runs on the Mac and PC as well. Very easy, again, to get going, and once you're on the network, you can easily add other devices to the mix. During that setup process, we did get started on the phone, and then we were able to connect to the printer automatically using Windows and Mac OS without having to go download anything additionally. So once you find the printer on the network, you're all set and ready to go. It even worked pretty well with Chromebooks too. Now, if you prefer not to connect this up to your network, you can plug it in directly via USB in the back. You do, of course, lose all those networking features, and you can only really use it with one computer, but you do have that as an option for you there. From the ink standpoint, this is your standard HP printer. So what I'll do here is just pop the hood so you can take a closer look. We have a color cartridge here and a black cartridge. If you lose any of the three colors, you have to replace the entire color cartridge. What HP is looking to do with this printer, like they do with many of their printers, is get you into their Instant Ink program, which I think can be more economical versus buying the cartridges every time you run out. And the reason is that the Instant Ink program charges you a flat monthly fee based on the number of pages that you print. And I wanted to show you some of the differences that you might encounter when you do print. So for example, this page has a lot of coverage and this one has little coverage. In other words, this one has more ink on the page physically than this page does. And if you are buying the ink cartridges outright, this page will cost you more to print than this one will. But if you are using the Instant Ink program, HP will send you new cartridges every time you start to run low, provided you stay within the monthly allocation that you're paying for, which means that this page costs the same as this one does. And the ink itself is also less expensive when you compare it to buying outright. And that's one thing to start doing the math on to figure out if it makes sense for you to use Instant Ink versus just, again, buying cartridges each time you run low. Another factor to think about on Instant Ink is that you're not charged for when the printer is cleaning itself out. I've heard from a lot of you where you say, you know, the printer uses up a lot of ink when it's trying to get those nozzles unclogged. When you have Instant Ink, you're only paying for pages, not for cleaning. And again, it could be a more economical solution if you are doing regular printing throughout the course of the week. So do the math on your usage and figure out whether or not it makes sense for you to go with the Instant Ink subscription plan. Do note, however, that the printer needs to be on the internet for you to use Instant Ink. That's how it reports its usage back to HP, and that's also how new cartridges get ordered. So if you're not comfortable with that, Instant Ink is not going to work for you. Also, if you cancel your Instant Ink subscription, any cartridges you have don't work any longer because they do validate your subscription when you plug them into the printer. The paper capacity on this is not spectacular. It only holds about 100 sheets. The paper I have in here right now is your standard 8.5 by 11. It takes A4 paper, which is a little bit longer, but it doesn't support legal size paper. You can, though, go smaller, so you could do like a 3x5 card, an envelope, 4x6, 5x7, all of those work in here, but there's no manual feeder. Everything has to be put into the paper tray here to go through. You can print borderless, though, up to 8.5 by 11 on this, so if you wanted to do a full-size photo print, you could do that. These 4-color printers are not great for photo printing, but we'll give you some examples of some photos we printed out in a little bit that did look okay, but not as good as a dedicated photo printer might look. One of the things that I like about this new HP design is that they have lights in all the different places that you might need to have your attention drawn to. So for example, when it's time to replace ink cartridges, you'll see a light here to indicate that you need to open it up over here to get at those cartridges. When you run out of paper, you'll see a light over here. And this light here will change out of white should the printer have some issues. And then you can load up your phone and see exactly what the problem is. Now, HP rates the speed of this printer at 10 pages per minute for black and white text. You can see it cranking out a few pages here. The color documents, they say, will run at about 7 pages per minute. Note, though, that this is in the standard quality mode. And I think if you're just printing black and white text, standard quality is fine. The text is nice and sharp, very readable, very good print quality. But the color documents suffered a little bit in the standard mode, mostly in areas where you've got a lot of coverage on the page. So if you've got something like this document here where you've got blocks of color, you're going to see banding in that standard quality mode. So if you want a better quality image, you're going to have to set your computer or mobile device to the best quality setting. That will dramatically reduce the print speed, increase the amount of ink being used, but it will look a lot better. Now you can set the printer to automatically print on 2 sides of a piece of paper. So what will happen is it will print out one side, and then it will suck the paper back in and print on the other side. That was nice to see at a printer at this price point, and it seemed to work pretty well in our testing. Now this is not an ideal photo printer, as I mentioned, but if you do need to print photos every once in a while, you've got that option. I ran some 4x6 photo paper through a little bit earlier. As you can see, it prints borderless, but it does look a lot better when you set the quality mode to high. That includes your phone or your computer, because I'm getting a lot of that banding when we were printing it out on the faster print mode. You'll still see some of it here on the higher quality print, but it's not as visible. So again, set that high quality setting and then sit back and wait a while, because these prints will take forever to come out, especially if you're doing an 8x10 or something like that. Now the scanner up top here is a 1200 by 1200 DPI scanner. Again, you've got the choice to use the auto document feeder or just place it on the glass. I'm just going to do a quick copy here so you can get a feel for its scan speed. It will scan at up to 1200 DPI. But what I'm going to do real quick is run a copy, and this will scan at 300 DPI, which is about its fastest scan speed. So you're looking at about 7 pages per minute scanning in black and white and 3 pages per minute in color. So it's going to take a while to scan documents in, and it won't flip the documents over either. So if you've got a 2-sided document, you're going to have to run it through twice manually. Now, one of the things that I liked about the printer is that they've got a really neat way of setting copies here on it. So what you're going to see here are 2 buttons on the front. The color copy button is to the left here, and the black and white button is to the right. So if I wanted to make maybe 2 black and white copies, I can dial that in. It will blink for a second to make sure that's what I want it to do. And now what it's going to do is scan the document here and then start printing. You can get a sense as to the scan speed here as it's going, and now it's going to give us a black and white copy. You can set up to 9 copies here on the front, but of course if you are printing something from your phone or from a computer, you can set more copies if you want. And there you go, you can see things coming out of the printer in black and white, and then I could run it through again and push that color button and get the same results here. So let's take a look now at the HP Smart app that accompanies the printer. This works across all platforms, and it runs the same across all platforms too, which will make this easy to demo. If you want to print something when you're not at home, this is how you're going to do it. So for example, if I want to print out a document, I can go here to view and print. I can print a document that's stored locally on the phone, or I can connect up to a cloud service. It'll download that document and then send it over to the printer via the internet. You can't just select File Print on your computer like you would if you were on the network. So the app here is the only way to do that when you're not at home. There's a couple of other things worth taking a look at. They've got a neat little camera scan app here that works like a lot of those apps you might use on your phone. So it'll detect a document here, it will process it and do its best to try to get it into a workable format. I can then take that document and print it out. So that will get connected to my printer and fire it off for me that way. So you can kind of use your phone as a scanner if you want. And I can also scan from the printer back to my phone if I want, kind of go in the other direction. So we can load up some documents here on the printer. What we're going to do is go over to the printer scan button here. By the way, you can adjust the order of these things if you have things that you use more frequently. And if you just click the blue button here, it will automatically detect that I want to use the ADF. It'll begin sucking in those documents and transmitting them to the phone. And you have a choice as to what you want to do with this document after it's done scanning. So for example, we could have it print out again if we wanted to. We could save it to the phone. We could share it with another application that supports PDFs. Basically anything you would do with the scanned document you can do here. And we'll let that scan in real quick and finish up. By the way, if you are using a computer on your network, this will show up as a network scan device in other applications that support network scanning. So you're not limited to just using the HP app. You can use the Apple Image Capture app, for example, and bring it in to that OS X native utility if you wanted to. So you do have some options there. So now that the document has been scanned, again, I could print it out, I could share it with somebody else. We can also have the HP Smart Tasks go to work on it, and those are kind of little macros that you can set up to maybe print something and then email it somewhere else. But one thing you'll note on here is that there is a fax button, and this is not going to support faxing over a phone line, but HP is giving you 2 years of a free fax sending service as part of the deal here. So if you send a lot of faxes and never receive them, this might save you some money because you can get rid of the phone line. So let me show you how that works here real quick. I'm just going to go to Continue to Fax. And what this will do is pull up a very familiar looking interface here. You can type in who it's going to and the phone number you're going to send it to. You can put a cover page on it if you want. And then when you click Send Fax, what it's going to do is send this fax through the HP service to the physical fax machine located at your destination. HP says this is HIPAA compliant, so if you are sending documents for medical purposes, it will comply with federal HIPAA laws. And if you are doing a lot of outbound faxing, this might be something to consider. But again, it does not support receiving faxes over this service. But it is possible to email documents directly to the printer because it gets its own email address. So if somebody were to attach a PDF to that email, when it receives it, it'll print it out for you automatically. So there's a lot of cool little services here on the app that I think might be useful. Now the app also supports photo printing, and you can grab those photos from your phone's camera roll, but also from cloud services if you want. You can add some filters, pretty rudimentary ones, but you can still play around a little bit with the look of the image here without having to jump out to another app. What I would suggest you do, though, when you go to print, is to pull the menu up here to select the higher quality print setting. So when you pull that menu up here, you can get options for the number of copies that you want to print. You can also set that print quality here as well. And I would suggest definitely going to the best option there to get the best quality print. It will, again, print borderless, and it will go up to 8.5 by 11 borderless if you want to get a nice big print out of here. Now I got my Amazon Echo device out here because you can do some pretty cool stuff with Amazon voice commands and the HP printers now, including this one. And I'm not going to use the A word here, so don't worry about having to mute devices, but you are going to need to get out your A word app on your phone and go over to Skills and Games here on the side. And what you need to search for is HP Print, or HP Printer, I guess, and what you'll find is a skill inside of the Amazon A-Word app that will link your Echo devices to the printer. And once you get all that going, you can ask it to print stuff for you. So for example, I can say, computer, tell my printer to print the latest comics. And what's going to happen now is it will go out.
I have sent a page of comics to your printer.
And every day you can have the latest little funny pages sent to your printer. So we're going to let this print out here real quick. And when it's done, I will show you what you get. And here you go. You've got some syndicated comics delivered to your printer every day with just a voice command. These will change every day because these are what the newspapers get through their syndication network. So I thought that was pretty neat. You can also print out stuff to keep your kids busy. So I asked it to print out some coloring pages for my kids a little bit earlier, and it was able to do that. And there's a list of other things that you can ask for, including things like graph paper and lined paper and other kinds of stationery items. And then in the app, they've got a lot of resources for downloading other projects that you can do with the printer. So if your kids are stuck at home all summer, poke around in the app. I'm sure you'll find some interesting stuff that you can use to keep your kids busy. And overall, it's not a bad device. It's not the most spectacular printer out there, but it's also pretty reasonably priced for what it is. I think it's very attractive, so it'll work well in a living space. And overall, I think it's a pretty good value for what they're offering here. Again, you got to do the math on the Instant ink and whether or not that makes sense for you. I would say if you are printing on any kind of regular basis, there's a good chance it will be economical, but you're just going to have to keep track of your usage. And I might come back in a little bit and do a video on Instant ink. I did one a while ago, but it's probably time to do an update just to help people through that decision-making process. And you can always cancel it and then go back to buying cartridges the old-fashioned way if you want. But it's, again, something to consider with it. But overall, not a bad printer here, and that is going to do it for now. Until next time, this is Lon.TV. Thanks for watching.
This channel is brought to you by the Lon.TV supporters, including gold-level supporters, the 4 Guys with Quarters podcast, Tom Albrecht, Rick Vestudo, Chris Allegretta, and Kalyan Kumar. If you want to help the channel, you can by contributing as little as $1 a month. Head over to Lon.TV/support to learn more. And don't forget to subscribe. Visit Lon.TV/s.